It's training camp season. Today we're looking at the Colts and we're getting a good look at A.D. Mitchell. He just torched the Ravens. He's been making plays all training camp long. We're going to look at them right now. Before we dig in, you need to click that subscribe button because we're looking at your players every day. Those guys climbing the depth chart, those position battles, those rookies. Guys are getting ready to draft in fantasy football, and some of you guys are going to get A.D. Mitchell, so you need to know what they're doing on the field right now. Click that button. Stop missing out. We're looking at A.D. Mitchell today. We're pretty much looking at as much camp as I can possibly find. 5.5 minutes of clips. I'm surprised I found that much, but we're going to let this rip. Here we go. And we also got stuff from the joint practices yesterday. There's a little Alec Pierce right there. Alec Pierce cooked last year. He took a step forward. There's AD right there. There's AD, but you're going to watch him cook. You're going to watch him cook. Here we go downfield. Getting it. A.D. Mitchell getting it. And it was all day from what I read. Just cooking everybody in the 1v1s at the Ravens practice. Joint practice. All day. It's from what I read. Getting it. Just getting it. He did the mic drop on the way back. On the way back. There he is again. Like he was unstoppable. We're only in our second year. This was a second-round pick that many people thought was going to go in the first round. He's got 4.3 speed. You go back and look at the tape from Texas, and you saw him break off routes, create good separation, stops on a dime. And then another clue from last year. And shout out, I think it's fantasypoints.com. They have this stat, separation per route. At one point, or the whole season, was leading all rookies. It was on a smaller sample, but he was one of the tops in the league, separation per route. Getting separation. That's the thing about A.D. Mitchell. That was a clue to this, and this is a clue to what could possibly happen in the future. It's just him balling. Look at that grab. Look at that grab. He like did a little spin, snatched it, and kept going. A.D. Mitchell is a guy we've been talking about, this Colts team, when we talk about this quarterback battle. Like, there's so much depth on this wide receiver depth chart. It's so sneaky. He could end up being the best one. He has the talent to usurp Josh Downs and Michael Pittman. He has the potential to do that. I'm not saying it. That's a tough order to go against those three wide receivers if you can keep them all healthy. That is a tough order. And now all you have to do is get the quarterbacks to cook. And all they got to do is just cook a little bit. They just got to get a little bit better. Dave Jones got to get back to where, 2022, 2021 status. And Anthony Richardson just has to take a couple steps forward in his development. Players can get better. And you got a run game. You got Josh Downs. He is going to be the deep threat plus more. And we said this all along. And the one thing you want to look at rookies, and we're talking about last year, he's on year 2, is that where did they flash? That stat, he had some moments, wasn't on the field a lot. Probably should have been on the field more and let him cook. There he is. He's coming into his own. It's play after play, guys. It's play after play, guys. A.D. Mitchell is rising up in camp right now. We'll loop this and keep talking ball. We'll talk fantasy too and what to do about this. What to do about him. Because it's a clear take because of the market. Anthony Richardson. Down there. I think even with bad quarterback play, like say if Anthony Richardson and Daniel Jones, they're only good in camp. They've been all right. Like, Daniel Jones has been all right. Anthony Richardson had some practices where it was looking like he's taking some leaps forward per beat writers. And he also had some practices, both quarterbacks, where it wasn't that great. Like a couple Saturdays ago, they weren't completing passes that well. It wasn't really documented per clips, but stayed by people who went to the practice, especially my comment section, and then beat writers as they list things out on Twitter. But A.D. Mitchell, is coming into his own right now in training camp. Now, are we just going to be a training camp dandy, or are we going to step up in season? That is going to be the huge question with A.D. Mitchell. That is going to be the huge question for him. But downfield, that downfield ability, what we saw there at Texas is starting to come alive. There it is. There it is. Some people had him compared to CeeDee Lamb. I did not have that comparison. He's faster. I think they got totally different play styles. But I think the ability or the potential to command a lot of targets and be a wide receiver one for an NFL team was always there. Like, that was always there. And that could potentially be happening here. Like, you're seeing it. Michael Pittman has that ability. He's shown that before. And Josh Downs has the ability to be studly. I've been saying this all along. You go back and look at every Daniel Jones versus Anthony Richardson video I did. The one thing I said, that whoever gets it is going to have a Cadillac of weapons. Because don't forget about Alec Pierce. Don't forget about A.D. Mitchell. But the fantasy football take here. He's cheap in drafts. And he's going to see a little rise in best ball drafts right now. On ADP, on Underdog, we're going to see a little rise. I think when you look at late round picks, you look at those upside dart throws, there's not many at wide receiver. There's just not many at wide receiver this year. It was a weak wide receiver class. You got a few of them. Few of them are killing camp. Pat Bryant's a cheap one. Luther Burden is ahead of it, but he's also like round 10-ish on Underdog. So he's kind of up there in price. A.D. Mitchell is a little bit cheaper. Maybe not for long if he keeps this up and keeps torching joint practices. But if you're looking for upside dandies, like lottery ticket plays, you got a second-round pick that many people regarded as a first-round pick with 4.3 speed. Good tape from college ball. Going into year 2, he did have some flashes as a rookie. It was just limited. He got limited opportunity, but he had some good flashes as a rookie, especially in the metrics and the data that you can latch onto. Torched this joint practice, so you got some good things. He's cheap, so if the Colts are not materializing enough for him to score fantasy production, then if you got to drop him, no big deal, and you move on to the next thing. He could take off on any given moment and just torch the NFL from there, too. That's the thing about him. But that's what we want from our lottery tickets, though. Like, say this quarterback situation just goes all bad and none of the wide receivers are doing anything. And, like, say there's a chance that none of them break 1,000 yards. You got that feeling after the first couple weeks, and it makes it easier for you to cut bait and work the waiver wire. The last thing you want is a roster clogger that's getting about 9 to 11 points a game or off and on like that, which makes you feel like he's doing good. But on retrospective, when you think about your lineups, like say you score a 10 spot, it's only like 4 points away from 6. Now, you don't want 6, but honestly, it's not doing really much for you. The grand scheme of your lineups and your point total, like that 4-point difference. So shooting those upside plays that might turn on somewhere down the line, week 3, 6, 9, 12, whenever, and you keep stashing, turning and burning, picking up the next one. In those years when those come alive and your lineup's built, oh man, that's when you start dominating. That's when you start dominating. And you just keep a roster spot free to turn and burn. This would be a good turn and burn player. Especially, you got a lot of young running backs. Maybe you got one for a running back that's a rookie, and maybe him or another wide receiver. You got a few of them. Luther Burden, Pat Bryant, him, Jack Betch. There's a few of them. Not as many as last year or other years. And plus, you get a good feel of wide receivers a lot quicker than you do running backs. A bad running back could step into the starting job and be productive in fantasy about once every 3 to 4 games. Like, you could be Trey Sermon, start for the Colts, Ravens, whatever team. About 1 out of every 3 games, 4 games, 3.5. They'll give you double-digit PPR fantasy scoring production. They'll suck the rest of them, scoring-wise. That's the thing about running backs. Like, you don't have to be upper echelon to be okay in fantasy. You just got to get touches. You can say the same thing about wide receivers, but being able to predict it is a little bit harder, especially if you're down the line in the pecking order. Quarterback play sus, all that stuff. But the one thing I do like about A.D. Mitchell, where you need to go in on him, I won't say all in, because this format, it's not wise to do so, because you got to diversify his DFS, daily fantasy football. Best ball too. He's great for best ball. He's probably going to have some blow up weeks. If anything, if you're looking at this quarterback play, and if you look at my fantasy videos and you see the charts with the scoring week to week, you're probably going to see some green lines where it's nuclear, and there'll probably be 3 or 4 of those, 2 to 4 or whatever. And then some red ones where they're kind of low. You kind of get a feel with the quarterback play here. And one thing is the volume, but the average depth of target, the deep targets downfield, that's going to fuel big time fantasy production. And if we can bring in a ball or two like that, maybe get a touchdown in a game, that game's going to go nuclear. He's going to have a few of those this year. You're just not going to know when. Now, matchup-wise, you want to look at the defenses. If they're giving up big-time yards to wide receivers, big-time fantasy points to wide receivers, you may want to play that in your DFS lineups a little bit more. And then also over-unders, projected point totals for the game. If those are pushing, Colts may not be in many of those, but if they're pushing 48, 49, 50 plus, that's when you can bump your roster rate of them in your DFS shares a little bit more that week. Now, Dynasty, he was cheap. He was a big-time pickup. If the managers in your league are not paying attention to him at all, like right now, like to my channel, to these clips, they think training camp's baloney. A lot of people do. It's not 100% baloney, but if you don't study it correctly, like you got to be all in studying it. You just can't just scrape by. Then you might be able to catch him for cheap if you're interested. The thing is, too, he's a lottery ticket still. He's still in lottery ticket status for fantasy football. Fantasy football, you got to score in the upper echelon to be relative. But I think you're going to catch a little value spike here. A good value spike, possibly, here in Dynasty Fantasy Football. You can definitely catch that, considering how cheap and how liquid he is. A sell would be like, hey, it's the wide receiver 3 still in the roster. Technically, you got Jonathan Taylor. They added Tyler Warren. And look at the quarterback play. When the hell are they ever going to get a quarterback? They're good enough at quarterback, too, to keep them away from the top quarterbacks in the draft. They got enough weapons to keep them away from the top quarterbacks in the draft. Are they really ever going to go full air raid? Last year, Jonathan Taylor led all running backs an opportunity, which means they're going to use him a lot, which means that's going to suck opportunity away from wide receivers. Josh Downs, when he's healthy on the field, over a 20% target share. Michael Pittman, last year was dealing with back issues, if you remember that, playing through back issues. If he's healthy for a full season, he's going to suck up target share. If you're looking for that, maybe you can use those ideas to drive down the price. This is why you want to listen to fantasy analysts who look at both sides of the spectrum. Because when you look at both sides of the spectrum, I can give you the side that's bad, and you can use that to twist to make your sell tactics if you want. However, I can also use that to deter you away, because all that stuff can deter you away from fantasy, and you just do what you want. And that's really ultimately my job, because you just do what you want. It's your team. But if I rah-rah and I just have picks, like some better, what's it really doing? Because it's all about process. What if I'm on vacation or something and a trade happens and you need to know what to do? You need to be able to know process. And what if it's some obscure player that I don't have content on? But if you watched enough and I trained you through process, talking good and bad at everybody, strategies with every single pick, value-wise, then you're good to go. I taught you how to fish. That's my job. teaching you how to fish with A.D. Mitchell. There's a good chance he's going to be very volatile. Good chance there's a value spike. It might be happening now. I'll check the keep trade cut charts. Very good that he's going to start coming alive a little bit. Very good possibility there's some volatility with him this year. Tyler Warren's been making some grabs. There is competition in the offense. Michael Pittman's getting banged up. He missed some practices. I got to see his health status right now. He was banged up with a back injury last year, so he could come back alive this year too. And then on top, he was playing through it. Also, quarterback play. Josh Downs comes alive when he's healthy. He's a stud. Alec Pierce came alive last year. These quarterbacks, like, they don't have to really do much. They don't have to do much here. They don't. A.D. Mitchell could be a superstar, though. That is the potential here. That's what you're betting on. That's what you're gambling on with those penny stocks in fantasy. That he turns into a superstar. He has that potential. I like A.D. Mitchell. I liked him as a prospect. There were some cool things from his rookie year. Let me know what you think. Comments below. I want to hear about that. Make sure you hit that subscribe button on the way out. Thank you for watching. Catch you on the next video.